Welcome to Milestone Moments, the show where we explore the journeys that lead to success. I'm Sheila Slick, your host and founder of 5 Milestones. In every episode, we will bring you insights from the minds of entrepreneurs, leaders, and experts who will share not just their expertise, but the milestone moments that have reshaped their journeys and led to significant achievements. So if you're looking for motivation, you're in the right place. Subscribe now and discover the milestones that mark the path to success. Thank you for joining us today on another episode of Milestone Moments in Business and Leadership. Today, my special guest is Henry Wong. He is president and brand strategist of Vyoo, a branding and content company he founded that focuses on impact companies. Henry's roots span over 25 years in the advertising and branding industry, including being an executive VP, creative director for the global ad agency, Saatchi & Saatchi. He is the author of the recently published book, Telling Your Story, Building Your Brand, a book on personal branding for business leaders, entrepreneurs, and people just looking to advance their careers. Welcome to the show, Henry.
Sheila, thank you very much for having me. I am super happy to be talking to you today.
Can you tell us about a specific milestone moment or an experience that sparked your passion for brand strategy?
I think it really began in my roots in advertising, but much before that. Sometimes I share this very interesting story in which I grew up in the back of a Chinese restaurant and I did not speak a word of English. And as I became of age, my parents pushed me to the front of house to act as a translator. So I became this little person at the front taking change from customers and learning all about their life and interacting with them. And I realized that the sort of stories and jokes I told would connect better with them. And in the end, it helped me with the tip jar quite a bit more. So I realized at a very young age the power of being able to shape stories to connect with people. And as I advanced in my career, I found that was a terrific way to present things because often, I come from the roots of advertising and creative, and often you're set to present ideas to clients. And it's very easy just to simply hold up the idea and maybe rely on it or, talk about it rationally. But if you can build a story around it, that becomes the essence of what you are as a brand. And that's really how I began formulating a lot of my ideas around creating brands using stories.
So you have a book, and in that book, you mention the significance of condensing a message to just 6 words like a billboard. Can you expand on that? Share an example of how we can use that approach to create a powerful brand message?
Sure. If you've ever met somebody at a networking event or you're sitting down with someone, often, question arises, tell me a little bit about yourself or tell, what's your story, Henry? And inevitably that person, particularly company leaders, I find tend to go to a very long length of resume of sorts or their entire life history. And in that sort of short moment, you can very much lose your audience or lose the person you're talking to. You see their eyes glazing over, they're starting to look to the other side of the room. And it's because they're not really interested in what you're having to say. The idea of the 6 words is really a discipline because if you think of a billboard, as you're driving by on the freeway and you see a billboard sign, you really only have seconds to take in that message. So in the days of advertising, we learned that using 6 words, 7 words, or a short amount of words can be the limit to how much someone can take as they go by. Now, applying that discipline towards your brand, if you're able to express what you're all about or your story in 6 words or less, then you really have the understanding of what your key message is. And you can build on that, of course, but by using that discipline, you can fully understand how to articulate what you're all about in a few key words. I'll give you an example. Where this came from. It was inspired by another story I heard, and it was from Ernest Hemingway. Apparently, he was in a bar in Havana, and he was getting drunk, and he said to the guy next to him that I could tell you a story in 6 words. And the guy next to him said, I'll bet you can't. And so on a napkin, apparently, Ernest Hemingway wrote baby shoes, for sale, never worn, and slid it across the table. And I guess he won a shot at tequila because it was just such a beautifully articulated story. And what it does, if you think about it, it builds in a lot of the theater of the mind. So baby shoes, for sale, never worn. You begin to add your own elements into it. But by boiling it down to a one key message, you're able to maybe build a connection with people. So that's the idea of doing 6 words, like a billboard for your own brand, being able to express what you're all about in those few keywords so that you can build upon it, because later on you can add more to the story. So begin with something short to understand what your key message is and then build from that. And that's really the discipline behind that exercise.
So, like on the website, should we put those words right at the top, like on that main banner?
I think so. Yeah, if you have the discipline to bring it down to that key message, then you have your proposition well articulated. The rest of the site builds upon it, but it's really that front-loading set of words that you're looking to hook someone or tell them the story in those few words as possible.
Easier said than done. 6
It
words,
is. It
7
is. Yeah.
words. Oh boy.
Yeah. Yeah. So we do that exercise with many of our clients, but how you get to it really is it's very much like a piece of sculpture. You begin with a lot of words or a long story, and you look for the essence of it. So often the exercises we do is, let's say it's for whether it's a company or a person, it's really determining what those key words are that might describe you, what those key benefits are to people. You long list it, you put it up on a board or on giant post-it notes, and you begin circling or identifying what those key words are. From that, you're able to boil it down to a few. Now, what can I do with those words to tell a little bit of a proposition or a story? So from that's how you get to those 6 words. Yeah.
Very useful. So you've helped companies like Toyota and Johnson & Johnson build their brands. What are some of the key challenges you see businesses facing today when it comes to building their brands?
Quite often we live in a world in which there is just so much messaging out there. It's very difficult to stand out amongst the many competitors that you have. So the challenge always is to first try to determine how you're positioned in the market. What sets you apart from everybody else? What differentiates you from the rest of the pack? And so there's no shortage of, you take any sort of business category, cars, for example. Tesla used to be the premier electric company. Now there's dozens of others that have come into the market. How do you begin to distinguish yourself? And that it often comes from the brand or the story or how you shape that connection to people. Because in essence, the product may be the same, but how you connect with people will help you separate yourself from the pack, of course.
In your book, Tell Your Story, Build Your Brand, you share your methods for creating a strong personal brand. Can you walk us through some of those key steps?
First and foremost, it's taking stock of yourself. So the beginning exercises, as I outlined in the book, is really to firmly assess who you are as a person. So quite often, if I ask you to describe yourself, it's really from your point of view, and it may not be the most objective one, because we often will slant it one way or another, or perhaps we sell ourselves in another way. What we try to do in whether it's a person brand or a product or service, you go to market and try to get an essence of what people think of you. So quite often that may involve interviewing people or sending a set of questions to people your friends, your colleagues, people you've worked with in the past, to get a little bit of a read on you. There may be another exercise you do where you take a personality test or an assessment of some sort, so you get a bit of a read. So right now then you have other people's views, you have hopefully what is an objective view from the tests, let's say, that you've done, and then your own interpretation of it. All of that you put together, or you begin to formulate perhaps what you're all about with the help of a professional. And this is what I often do, is we cut through all of that and try to get to the essence of what that person is. But if you're doing it on yourself, you really do have to take an objective view and really get to what your persona is, what you are as a person. So by first understanding who you are, now you can determine how you might sit in the marketplace, how you might compete against other people, whether it's as a head of a company or whether you're navigating your way through your career. What sets you apart from everybody else? That's your main position. from that, what you're hoping to do is to articulate how that position can be as a business proposition. How can I benefit someone with these skills or these this essence that I've described? And this is where really it gets back to that 6-word exercise of being able to articulate it in those few words. And by doing that, now I have really what I stand for. There's a further exercise in the book where I even boil it down to a single word. So if I said to you, let's say, what does Volvo stand for? We've always thought it's a car that stands for safety, one word. Apple just stands for innovation, Nike, winning. So these are the things that you're looking to do to attach to yourself. What is the one word out of the 6 or out of all these words that I might be able to stand for? So now you have a little bit of that essence of who you are as a person. So from there, you begin to do longer length. It doesn't have to be 6 words now. These 6 words are really to lead you to that single word. But if I stand for, let's say I'm a very caring individual, so my keyword is caring. So how do I begin to articulate that story, tell that story, and share it with people? And that's how you begin to build it out through either, sharing stories, case studies, examples, ads, and so forth that help to bring that essence of what you stand for in the marketplace to life, so other people can go, yeah, that's really the type of person or the type of company I associate with.
So when it comes to personal branding, right, because we talked about products and we talked about services, in the personal brand, for example, like in LinkedIn, I see some titles where I'm like, I have no idea what they do, right? Because they get so creative. And then you just put like consultant, well, that's too broad. So what tip can you give those trying to brand themselves?
You've underscored the essence of what it means to communicate to the world out there. So, we went through a trend where many companies and many people, as a creative way of suggesting innovation within the company, allowed people to come up with their own job titles. So you had chief comedian within a company. So other sort of funny, enlightened type of words. That works really well within the company because that's your audience. But what you were talking about, Sheila, was you looking at it, not really understanding what they're all about. When you're communicating with people, you really have to understand who your audience is, who you're communicating with, because they're, in the end, are your customers. Even if it is someone looking to potentially hire you, think of them in a way as a customer. So how do I best position myself or write those words that would appeal to them, not necessarily to me? In marketing, we often refer to it as talking to yourself because nobody else understands what you're saying. You really have to take into account your audience so that you can communicate best with them. And that's the first and foremost. Understand that you're not going to be everything to everyone and you're not going to communicate everything to everybody. But what you do need to do is understand who the most important people are within your customer base, within, let's say, potential candidate companies that may hire you, or people you simply want to connect with, whether it's dating or within a professional life. What you're looking to do is find the right words to connect well with those people. And that's, again, part of the exercise of getting you to that point. Understand your audience, of course.
And the book is a step-by-step. So you actually break it down in the book?
I do, yeah. So, it is a little bit of a self-help. I found that there were quite a few people who came to me who simply couldn't afford my fees. So that was probably part of the impetus in terms of creating the book, so other people could maybe take some of this insight and, bit of knowledge I have to offer that hopefully they could apply to themselves.
Well, you've had a very successful career.
Thank you.
Authored a book. What is your next milestone?
As you described in the beginning, I really enjoy working with companies that have a positive impact on society. So my next milestone is hopefully to be, continue to be part of companies. I've been, fortunate enough to be invited to sit on boards or to be part of companies. And I'd love to find that, sort of next thing that would help, change society. And I don't have that milestone yet. The goal in itself is to try to find something that we can help continue to change and better the world.
What advice would you give to someone interested in making an impact?
I think it begins with the personal purpose that someone has in life. Many entrepreneurs out there, have started a company, and it's often based on their passion to try to create something that in which they are looking to change an element within the industry or, on a grander scale of the world. I think always focus on your purpose, the reason why. People talk about the why. I like to think of it as a purpose. What is the purpose for why you're doing what you're doing? And with that, if you hang on to it, I think that always maintains the passion, because so often we get into business or we get into a job, we begin to lose our sense of passion. If you're not aligning to what your purpose is and what you're setting out in life, then maybe change it so you can be happy and align it better to your beliefs again. Advice in the end: find your purpose, stay to it, and bring it to life.
So where can my audience find you and your book?
Book is available at Barnes & Noble. It's available on Amazon, of course. Well, I have my own website and lists some of the retailers that can get the book if you're interested, or simply reach out to me. I'm very happy to always connect with people, and that's at henrywong.co.
Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Sheila, I really enjoyed hanging out with you and talking.
And thank you all for listening today on another episode of Milestone Moments in Business and Leadership.